I've already gathered a bunch of peaches from outside, and unfortunately this much is wasted. By wasted, I mean the birds got to it, they got bruised, whatever. This is just all off one tree, and I've already sent a flat out already, and we're just working here in my sink. So this is how I do it. Just taking a little piece of wet cloth, terry cloth, because of the little fibers on there, and these have that little bit of fuzz. Now some people don't even mind the fuzz. I'm gonna go ahead, because mine are pretty wild and they haven't seen a lot of water or anything or any contact or touch. They have pretty significant low layer of fuzz on there. So I'm just wiping that off. I'm gonna pop the pits out and put them in freezer bags and freeze them up, and then they're perfect little chunks. They're like little frozen fruit ice cubes to mix in with the rest of your food. This variety of peaches, don't know what it is. I call them the edge of the chicken coop. They seem to be a semi-dwarf. They're not going for the full height of an orchard tree. Orchard varieties are our tallest, and their name is what it means. So those are the tall ones that you see, as tall as an orchard tree. And then we have semi-dwarf, which is about halfway. That's what a lot of people like to grow, because it'll get above your head and provide some shade, but it isn't this big massive tree. And then we have our dwarfs and true dwarfs, which are the super small little versions of fruit trees, if you've seen those. These grew from pits that we threw in my chicken coop, so they're undoubtedly originally from the Major family farm, from my family's little farm, and were probably brought up here in a load that looked like this that they were giving us, and then I threw a bunch of peats, like that, out for the chickens. And then these grew over the years. I have a bunch of, if you look out my dirty window here, you can see now I got grapes and stuff that grow along the trellis, nectarines, figs. Oh, there's a little finch right there. And so they are busy eating all kinds of things. But in the sparse moment between the mulberries and plums and stuff, they came along and pecked at my fruit before it was all the way ripe, as birds will do. I also leave about 10% of the fruit on the trees. These are my peach trees. I don't know if you can see that. We'll go out there and look at them before the video is over. And yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. So I leave about 10% accidentally, or just they're too high or they're small, or because I don't want to pick it all the way for the birds out there. Because I got how much I didn't even deal with, I didn't even get to, and then how much I'm dealing with flat after flat. We got more over here, we got more outside. So sorted. These need to be scrubbed. Might go to some animals, might make whiskey out of them, who knows. Scrub station, dry station. Over to here, more coming in. Pit jar, it's where we put the pits. Might do a big planting project this year. Dice, dump into the bag, into the freezer. Because I'm using a trickle of water here to scrub off the fuzz, but to be water conservative, you could actually use a bowl, and then when that bowl was full of water, then you could just scrub in the water in the bowl. If it at some point got super contaminated, I don't know if that's the word, but too full of fuzz to where it was effective, you could switch to water, but that's probably the way to go to actually show this. Yeah, that works just fine. You can just go right in the bowl. That might even be easier. It's pretty quick. At first I would slip the skins off my stuff, but then I found out how much vitamins are actually in the skins and stuff that you don't want to lose. And then, just to save time, you can do this. But in my own garden, I generally just give it 2 or 3 wipes on my shirt and go ahead and gobble the thing away. Look at that color that comes out in there. Here's this pile. Yeah, that. Got some peaches going on. That's just, yeah, probably about 60% of one tree. And the waste in the background. those still to go, and then 3 flats that already went out, and whatever's been picked and eaten, whatever hit the ground. And we have my sunflowers swaying out there. We have clouds. First time in a long time, and some weather. Yay. On with the peaches. Just pop in half. Boom. Very freestone. Meaning that the stone, that's why these are called stone fruit, is because they're hard little rock of a pit in there. But it just pops out, so they don't, you don't have to tear them out. Some peaches are more connected to their fruit. And then drop the pit in the pit jar, jar of rocks. Boom, 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 and you could slice those one more time. I know what I'm going to do with these, so I'm putting them all in a blender after they're frozen. Boom, boom, boom. This one didn't have any imperfections in there, but I'll show you one, and we'll just go ahead and nip out the bad. There's no bad in that one. This one would have a little soft spot where I probably dropped it yesterday when I was picking it. You wouldn't have to take that out, but we're going to. Actually have a little slop bucket over here where we put the scraps. But then same thing, just rotate it around, pop it open. The pit just drops out, baby tree. Boom, boom. Look at these. Those are some tasty slices of peach right there. Boom. Boom. Yeah, I love the red staining in there. Means it sat on the tree for long enough for the sugars to just go and go. Then all of those, I'm going to go ahead and slide into this little shoomp here. You have to excuse me, this is like my first cooking show. And when that gets full, we're just going to tip it into these bags. Into the bag. You see how that works perfectly? Anyhow, pretty hands off, pretty sterile. I'm gonna load up these bags pretty darn good because they break apart nice and easy, and then we'll just freeze them. If you're gonna do it for a long time, you might want to double bag them. Consider things like that, you know, just to prevent the freezer from burning them too much. But I generally use mine in a year, and a good real Ziploc bag or whatever will generally be enough. So we only have 10,000 more peaches to go. The animals come to my yard. I have foxes and raccoons that have been climbing my trees, picking them, and now that we have reached the point where the fruit is falling and hitting the ground, they just sit out there all night and gobble their little heart's delights out, which I really don't mind. Got to make sure the dogs don't run out the door, so we go out and make a bunch of noise and let them know that the animals might be coming outside, because dog will chase, you know, that's just what they do. I try and teach my guys to leave them alone as much as I can, but squirrel is squirrel and dog is dog. So, not that squirrels are out there at night eating the peaches, but the raccoons, fox, and whatever else. And in the morning I find just the pits sitting there all over my little staircases, and that makes me pretty darn happy, because I know that out in this land where I am, it's mostly dry, scrubland and stuff. You know, there's pine nuts and acorns and all that kind of stuff going on, but as far as moist, juicy, sugary fruit, this is one of the only spots where they can come feast like that. So try not to put too much air in there. And I'm going to flatten them out about like that for good storage. I'm going to set them in there and try not to put too many bags full of peaches on top of each other until they freeze, so they don't smash each other or anything. It's always nice for preserving stuff when you try and make it look as good as you can when it comes back out of the freezer or back out of the jar or whatever, because then it's more appetizing, and that's what we want, is more appetizing stuff. So, magic of Hollywood, and we'll bring these out and I'll show you. Yeah, it does turn out really nice. They didn't lose any color in this process real quick, so I don't have to use any citric acids or anything to preserve color, which is a trick that you could do if you were jarring or canning, but I think that looks really good. And then these just break apart and go right in your blender. Frozen bits and pieces of summer preserved. So, as you can see, we're filming this right now. The weather is changing. We're halfway. Putting stuff away from the land. Peaches have been processed. How many pits do you think that is? Because that's how many we did. There's our scraps and our bad ones on their way out. And those, like I said, are going to get moved into a different spot. This is just the first tree. We're going to step outside real quick here at the ending of this video and look at the trees that are still coming with their fruit and see what you think, because this is insanity, but so it has started. Okay, so here's the next tree. Look at these clouds. Wow. Here's the next tree that's up. This one is a little more sparse, but they're bigger peaches. Oh, and they're not quite ready, so we have a day or two. They're all through it. Sunflowers. Fig trees getting ripe. Here's all of our nectarines. They are actually ripe even though they're green. Those are squishy. Okay. You see how many There actually are of all of those on everything. So that's a loaded up tree. This is the one that we just did. It's about how many fruit I will leave on there. And the ground was covered, but they're all gone. So that means last night they got eaten. So there's hardly any on the ground. In fact, you won't see one peach here. What you'll see is the little pits scattered around. Those are fresh pits. Here's last year's pit. Those are fresh. So last night, anything that was on the ground got eaten. There's one that's fallen today off of this tree right above us. You can see how many are actually on there. So that looks like a bird was going at it and knocked it down, and tonight a raccoon or a fox or somebody will come eat every drop. Here's the next tree, and these are loaded. These are just, look at them in the wind, this poor thing trying not to break itself. But look how many peaches are on there. Just crazy, and they're still green. There's that next one. And just pure craziness. These are big, they're still green. Look how big that is, and it's still green. Like what? Ah! And these are, look at that. Look at the size of that. It's not even ripe yet. Right? These are just limbs of these. Look at these peaches on here. Boom, boom, boom. Just loaded. And then the mulberry is still cranking out. It still has the light pink, the next shade. Look at that, just mulberry land. The birds are doing a good job at keeping up on these, but every time I come out I try and pick some. Here's all my volunteer peaches that will be dug up. See how they've rolled down here and grown themselves? So I'll pot these up. Comfrey pineapple, guava here, doing pretty good. Pomegranate. But yeah, those are the peaches. So that'll wrap up this video. Mulberries and peaches all together. And there's lots of other fruit. Those are about how many I left. There's about 5 up in the upper parts of this, but this one was loaded. Everything is loaded up. And then got some tomatoes. Hello, Blue Jay. Oh, see, he's eating my figs right there. He just flew over the fig. I saw that. So they're very aware of what's getting ripe in my yard. And these are good. These are actually soft and tasty, and it's its heaviest load ever. 3-year-old figs, this right there. And you usually don't know when you're planting a fig from the wild if it's going to be a good tasting fig. These were from down at the campground, which is actually an old little ghost town near here, and this is just one of the little root shoots off of the side of that that's turned into this. Yeah, those are looking good too. And tomatoes. This is what Pope Valley tomatoes look like. They're kind of small. It's very arid up here. And then sunflowers. Yep, getting some clouds and weather. This was just a volunteer peach that grew at the edge of the deck, and now it hangs over the deck, which is nice. You get shade out of it. Little garden. So thanks for joining me in my kitchen and my garden today. Hope you enjoyed that, and I will have you back next time if you will be so kind as to join me, or on one of the other adventures. For now though, I'm on my way to do some of the other chores on the list, and it's a fine and beautiful day for that. So I hope this finds you in good spirits and good health. And until I see you again, please take care of yourself. If you get the chance, take care of anything else on the planet. It needs it, including each other. I'll see you later.